Welcome, as the screen says, to another Front-End Engineering Explained. So it's a little different, and I've actually wanted to make this one for a while, but I've been waiting for a definite answer on this before I made the video. Now I have the definite answer, thanks to some folks on the WhatWig, the WhatWG IRC channel. So here's something that I discovered. I'm working on a book about HTML, and I'm reading the specification. And I stumbled upon this disabled attribute that you can use on the link element when the rel attribute is set to style sheet. In other words, when you're using it to load a style sheet, you can put this disabled attribute on there. And according to the specification, this is what it says. The disabled attribute is a Boolean attribute that is used with the style sheet link type. The attribute must only be specified on link elements that have a rel attribute that contains the style sheet keyword. Whenever the disabled attribute is removed, set the link elements explicitly enabled attribute to true. And then the really interesting part is this here, removing the disabled attribute dynamically, for example, using JavaScript, remove attribute, blah, 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 will fetch and apply the style sheet. So that means up until that point, when you remove this disabled attribute, the style sheet is not loaded, nor is it applied. So basically, this gives us lazy loading CSS natively using the web platform without having to do any hacks or anything by using some kind of type that the browser doesn't understand, so it ignores your style sheet or anything like that. You can literally put this disabled attribute on there, and then when you want the CSS to load and apply, you just remove the attribute. But there's a but here. And the but is the reason why I haven't made the video until now. And that is because when I tested this, I found that what the behavior that's described here is not what browsers are doing, except for one browser. But you'll have to wait and to know which one that is. So right now I'm in Vivaldi, which is Chromium. And this does not work exactly like that in Chromium. So here's the bug in Chromium. And it's a P2, so there, and it's assigned actually. So from this, it tells me somebody's actually working on this to fix this. Priority P2, severity S4, and it's assigned. So this looks to me like it's going to be fixed at some point in the not too distant future in Chromium. The other browser this does not work in exactly is Firefox. Here it's a priority of P3, so lower priority, and the severity of S3. It's in the core. At this point, it says the status is unconfirmed. So I will read through this a little bit more, but then I don't think it's that, I don't think you can do this. But there's some discussion here. I'll have a read and maybe also link up either this video or some very slimmed down test case to prove that it actually doesn't work. That only leaves one browser, Safari. So in this case, Safari actually behaves the way the standard defines it. So I made a little demo to show you what I mean by this, and one way we could use it. And the interesting thing about it is you can still get some benefit in Chromium and Firefox, even though they don't exactly behave the way that the standard specifies it should. So to cut to the chase, the primary thing that Firefox and Chromium doesn't do that Safari does do is they both fetch the CSS. They don't apply it. They don't parse the CSS, and they don't apply it, but they do fetch. So they do make the network request on page load. So even though it's disabled, they will fetch it, but they won't apply it. Neither of them will apply it. Safari doesn't fetch. And of course, because it hasn't fetched the CSS, it can't parse or anything, and it can't apply it. So you still get the benefit of, depending on what's in your CSS, maybe some background images that's going to be lazy loaded, maybe some other background things that's being lazy loaded, but also, of course, depending on the complexity, you might get a slight performance benefit because it doesn't have to parse and apply all the CSS. So let's look at a demo. So the demo looks like this. We have this big welcome screen, and then we have these planets and this scrolly thingy with this background star field, and then we just have some links here at the bottom that links to the people who I ended up not using all the images, but I still credit all of them in here. So very simple, but here's what I've done to demonstrate this. So we have 4 style sheets. We have a reset, link disabled. So that is the main CSS for this page. And all that link disabled is just this little bit. It sets up our hero and it adds a margin 0 to our body. That's all that one does. And then of course our reset is just our usual reset, just set some defaults. So, but then we have our lazy gallery and our lazy credits. So that's our little gallery that you just saw with the scrolly thing and our links at the bottom. So these are disabled. Now, then we just have a whole bunch of our HTML. That's just our hero, our gallery with the images in there, and then our credits at the bottom. Now, what lazy gallery does is it sets that stars.webp background image on the container, and then it just sets up like a flex container, and it sets overflow, and it sets like a scroll bar color and a scroll bar width and things like this. So it just styles our gallery so it looks nice. And lazy credits also just adds some styling. So the styling you saw, that's what it adds. And then what I did is I'm using JavaScript here at the bottom. And so here I just get all the style sheets. So all link rel equals style sheet that has a disable attribute on them. So I grab all of them. And now I have a target, which is my gallery container. And then I create a new intersection observer. So basically, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this one, but we're basically going to be observing the intersection of our gallery container. And when it intersects, then we want to fire off. We want to go through all our style sheets and just set link.disabled equals false. We can, of course, also, as the spec says, we could also do link.remove attribute disabled. That'll still work. And then we disconnect our observer because we don't want it to do this again, because now we've loaded our style sheets, so we're good. And then we just tell the observer, observe our target, right? So what does this mean? This means if we go in here, and so right now you'll see it looks really nice, right? But if we if we open our dev tools, we're going to look at a couple of things here. So first things first, let's look at the network panel first. So as you can see, what's happening here is we've got our HTML, we got our reset, our link disabled, but then you'll see here what I was talking about. Let me just disable cache, because right now you can see 304, which means not modified, which means it will load it from cache. Now we can see everything is 200s. So it's loading it over the network. And there's our sky, our planet, but you'll see that stars.webp, it's not showing up yet. Because even though the browser's downloaded these style sheets, it's not parsing and applying them. So it doesn't yet know that there's an image that it should be loading. But now as soon as we start scrolling, boom, you saw there, if you were really quick and you looked at the bottom, I'll show you again in a second, this actually kicked in. And then you can see it fetched these, it did a network request again for lazy gallery and lazy credits. And then it also loaded stars.webp. So of course our styles are now there. But I'll show you now if we turn off JavaScript, that actually they are disabled. I will show you that in a second. Now, remember, here it shows 200s. In a real world scenario, we won't have cache disabled. So if we do it without disabling cache, we'll see these were all 200s. But then if we scroll, we'll see that these ones are 304s, right? Which means not modified, so the browser will load it from cache. So it will say, hey, I want this file in the browser to say, whoa, 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 I actually already have this, here you go. So it won't load them again over the network. It's just doing that now because we explicitly disable cache. But again, it's not exactly the behavior that the specification says, because these two style sheets loading up here, that shouldn't be happening. Okay, but let's go in here. I'm not going to worry about the caching right now. All you're going to do is disable our JavaScript. And then we're going to go ahead and reload again. And now you can see our JavaScript's not being run. Therefore, our style sheets remain disabled. So you can see the browser's loading those style sheets, but it's not applying them, right? And of course, this is not what you want, but when your JavaScript runs, all will be good. So let's just re-enable JavaScript. And with it enabled now, I'm not sure if it just enables it without having to reload. So there, it just loaded it in. So I'm going to do this again. Now, if you look at the bottom of this screen, right here at the bottom, I'm going to scroll really slowly and you will see that there's a moment where our style sheets, see what, boop, they loaded in. Okay, so that's what happens in Chromium. What happens in Firefox is exactly the same thing, but I will show you anyway. So this is Firefox, Zen, but it's Firefox under the hood. So we'll reload, ignore all of these things. I finally discovered what this is. It's this favicon loader.sys.mjs, and then these little data things is actually favicons for these other tabs in here. So I'm not sure why this ends up here, so just ignore that. But again, you can see here that it's actually done a GET request for our lazy gallery and our lazy credits. But again, you'll see stars isn't here. As soon as we start scrolling, boop, there stars and our planet 002 WebP happens. The interesting thing here, which you will notice, is you don't see those network requests again, right? So let's refresh. So if we go down, we can see it did 2 requests for stars.webp and planet002.webp, which was cached because we already loaded it up here. But it didn't do the requests again for our lazy gallery and lazy credits. Slightly different. Maybe it's also a Firefox DevTools thing. Not sure. I don't think so. I think maybe this is also a slight difference here, that that second fetch doesn't even happen. Even though it's returned from cache in Chromium, here looks like Firefox maybe doesn't even do the fetch. It's like, no, I already have this. I'm not going to do it again. I'm just not going to apply the CSS. And when I do that, oh, there's a WebP and I'm going to quickly request that one as well. So that's what's happened. That is what happens in Firefox. So if, for example, in Firefox, we go into settings and we disable JavaScript, it reloads and you can see again that it's not actually applying that CSS, even though we can see in the network panel that it is loading it. So it's there, but the browser is just not parsing and applying it to our page. So, oops, that's the wrong place. Settings. Okay, put JavaScript back on and all is good again. Maybe if I scroll slow. Yeah, for a second there was a little white there at the bottom. All right, so let's fly over to Safari. So in Safari, same deal. Here we have our page. And if we scroll, whoop, there you will see it enabled it. And you can see it's a little slower in Safari. It's fast, but it's a little slower, right? And now let's inspect here and let's drop into our network. Let's ensure our caches are disabled. Okay, so let's reload. Oh no, how did I end up here? Oh, let me do this. Where is my dev tools? They're just flying somewhere else. Now I'm not even in Safari anymore. Let me do oh no. Try that again. Okay. Now I wonder if I have 2 of these open. Okay, I'll drag it over to the other screen. I'll drag it back in a second. So I'm going to refresh and drag this back. So as you'll see here, okay, something weird happened there, but we're moving right along. We have our HTML, we have our reset, we have our link disabled. Remember, that's our main one. We have Planet 002. We set that to load lazily, but The browser's already grabbed it. All of the others did that as well. We have our Sky.webp, which is this guy. But you will see not stars.webp, nor those other two CSS files are here. As soon as we start scrolling and we're getting our intersection happening right about now, there they come in. Lazy gallery, lazy credits, stars.webp. And our CSS is fetched and applied as the specification says. So Safari actually in this case is the one that is following the specification exactly. So I think this is kind of cool. I think this opens up some possibilities where you can make a decision whether this makes sense for what you're building. In Safari, you're going to get this bigger performance improvement because you're not fetching this CSS at all. And of course, you don't only intersection observer is not the only way you can do this. This is just one demo that I've put together. You just need something to tell you, I need these extra components CSS now, or in a couple of milliseconds, I'm going to need it. And then it can be a user clicking on a thing and you're maybe opening a modal that contains a bunch of stuff and you don't want to load it until the users actually click the button, something like that. So yeah, I thought this was really cool. Looking forward to see this supported in other browsers as well. Well, fully supported. There's still some benefit as mentioned. My video might have frozen, not sure. But either way, you can still hear me, I hope. And yeah, what do you think? Did you know about this? Have you used it before? Have you used this as kind of like a progressive enhancement kind of thing? Never heard of it. Is this something you're going to experiment with? Love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments here on YouTube. And till the next one, keep building great experiences for everyone on the web. Peace.